Hey there, it's Brian Aganad, and the topic of today's lesson is how to do the perfect jump back. Okay, so if you struggled with this or you struggled with jump throughs, this is a really good starting point for you to work on. Now, what makes a jump back, what makes doing the perfect jump back so difficult? Okay, so there's two categories of things that stop students from doing a jump back. One of them is just simply physical limitations, and the other one is technical limitations, right? So first, I want to talk about some of the physical limitations that hold students back. So first and foremost, core strength, right? So if you don't have the core strength to pick your hips up off the floor, you're not going to be able to execute the rest of the movement. You're not going to be able to swing. You're not going to be able to get to the arm bend. So core strength is really important. You have to be able to pick yourself up off the ground. And along the lines of core strength comes arm strength, right? So specifically when I say arm strength, I mean pushing power. So pushing power in the triceps. Now, it's important to distinguish the difference between pushing with the triceps and pushing with the shoulders, right? So you want to do the triceps, not the shoulders. The shoulders are more designed to stabilize you in this movement, not to push, right? So you can get so much power from the triceps when you push with there. Another thing that tends to go wrong for students here is tight shoulders, right? If you just don't physically have the mobility to move the shoulders forward and back and bend them in this, you're not going to be able to execute a jump back, right? So there's lots of different moving components. Another thing is back strength. Without the proper back strength, it's very hard to stabilize yourself while you're going back, right? So I'm going to talk about the phases in a second and why back strength is really, really, really important. But let me talk about one more, which is hip flexor strength, right? So one of the things that simply stops students from being able to go back is they can't compact themselves enough to actually fit through their arms, right? So if you've tried this before and failed, and you can't see yourself actually fitting through your arms, this is a really good reason why. Hip flexor strength, because what it does is it compacts you and holds your thighs into your chest the entire time. The name of the game here is really to make yourself as small as possible and swing yourself back, but easier said than done. Now, let me talk about the two phases of a jump back before I talk about like the technical challenges here. So phase one is essentially a swing phase, right? This is with the arms straight. So the shoulders go forward and the body swings back. That's phase one. Phase two is the bend phase, right? The bent arm phase. And this is when you're back, after you've gotten through the arms, you have to bend to send yourself back. So if you think about it this way, right? That's, again, the back strength. That's why the back strength is so important. But if you think about it this way, when you put your hands on the floor, at any given time, you have weight in front of the hands and you have weight behind the hands. So whatever you do, think about it like this. Whatever you do with the weight in the front of the hands, it does the opposite behind the hands, right? And so in a jump back, what you want to do is go back and up. So as counterintuitive as this may seem, you have to go forward and down in the front because that'll cause you to go back and up in the back, which is what will give you the room to go all the way back. So if you're one of those who, in your quest for the perfect jump back, does what I call the foot skid or the foot tap, where you can get halfway back, if that, then your feet kind of skid on the floor and then you go back, you need to think about creating the proper leverage, right, in addition to all the physical things. Another problem, again, back to the back, another thing that causes that skidding is back strength, right? If you don't have the back strength to hold yourself in that position, once you get to phase two, phase two, after the swing and the arms bend, then you just collapse and fall on your shin bones and slide and then do like a double jump back. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of exercises that you can do to fix your jump back and work towards the perfect jump back. So the first one is, I'm going to show you the phase two exercise first, right? This is one of my favorites and this one is very difficult. So if you look at me here, I'm set up on a block and this is important, okay? So in addition to having hip flexor strength to hold yourself in, it's not crossing over the ankles. As common as you may hear that cue, cross over the ankles and swing back, it's not that, right? What you want to do is cross your shin bones and squeeze the knees together because the name of the game is compacting yourself as much as possible. So you compact yourself by squeezing the knees so that they're physically touching and using the strength in your hip flexors to hold the thighs in towards your chest. Does that make sense? So now, if you look at me here in this setup, what I'm doing is my feet are on the block, I bend the elbows and come forward. Now, what this does is, first of all, it activates those back muscles that have to hold you stable. And when you're up that high, the second the feet leave the ground, the second you feel how much back strength you actually need to get yourself back. In addition to that, what you'll also find is it shows you exactly how far forward and down you have to go back. So the goal here is to go forward and down enough so that you feel your body go up and back, right? So if that's not happening, you need to calibrate and go down and forward a little more. Or the opposite is true. If you go down and forward too much, you'll end up just falling flat on your face, right? So that's phase 2. The phase 1 exercise is what I call the swing, the core swing. So you put your hands on blocks and you swing, right, with the arms straight. So what this does is you swing back. You're using your core, right, to swing back and forth. There's like a rhythm that you're getting here. And what happens is you bend the arms, or not you bend the arms, but you bring the shoulders forward, and that's what starts to create the swing. So it teaches you the shoulder motion because look, you need to start the movement by bringing the shoulders forward. The shoulders come forward and back. So there's what I call the rhythm of a jump back. You want to get into the rhythm of it. It's all about manipulating physics and gravity to get into a rhythm, and so the thing becomes smooth. It's not a jerky, forced type movement, right? So that's phase 1. The difficult part, this is the reason why a jump back is so difficult for some students, is because essentially, if you think about it, it's learning, this is what it is. This is what it is beyond the movement itself. You're learning to suspend the body in midair while transitioning between straight arms and bent arms, right? That's where the back strength really comes in. That's the difficult part. The transition part is where a lot of students fail because, again, as you go back and you bend, you have to have that back strength to hold yourself up to go back. In addition to that, you have to be able to get the forward and down component correct at the same time so that your back can actually work. I know, it's getting complicated, but bear with me here. That connection point is kind of the key. That's what separates the pretender jump backs where you skid along the floor to the real jump backs here. As you get better and better, this is what you want to think about. So I guess the question is, how do I know, Brian, how do I know when to bend the arms? How do I know when to bend them? It's so difficult. Another problem that causes the skidding is people bend their arms too early, right? They're in a rush to get through the movement. So it's jerky. It's kind of like bend as quickly as possible and get myself back because I can't create the leverage with my core and arms straight, right? But you don't want to do that. You want to take your time. At the very minimum, you want to bend the arms after the ankle bones come in line with your wrist bones at the very earliest. Then as you get stronger, you can start to hold out longer and longer, as you can see that I do in this jump back, right? And then as you get even better and you get even more comfortable with this, you can see in this video, I take myself all the way up into the air to a handstand. You can do that too. And the whole trick towards working to that is being disciplined with when you bend the arms, right? When you bend the arms is so crucial in your progress. As you start to get it, let's say you start to get the jump back, make it a goal to consistently bend the arms later and later and later and later. Hold out for as long as you can. Because at first you may be bending the arms when the ankles come in line with the wrist bones, but over time the ankles will start to go past them and then you can bend, right? As you saw in my demonstration. As you get stronger, you go higher and higher, and that builds, and before you know it, you'll build the discipline to go all the way up to a handstand. All right, so those are kind of the key components of a jump back. I guess the summary is it's done in 2 phases, the straight arm phase, the bent arm phase. A jump back is difficult because you have to hold the body in midair while transitioning between straight arms and bent arms. A lot more difficult than it looks on the surface. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video today. Now, right below, leave me a comment and answer this question for me if you're working on your jump back. What is the most difficult part for you? What is the most difficult part that's held you back from nailing your perfect jump back? And I'll be sure to answer you and help you out in any way that I can. Okay, thanks for watching this short tutorial. Enjoy the rest of the blog post. Talk to you soon.